Welcome to the intersection of technology, cybersecurity, and society. Welcome to ITSP Magazine. You're listening to a new The Hacker Factory podcast with hacker maker Phillip Wylie. You're about to discover what the role of a professional hacker entails, the different specializations it holds, and what it takes to learn and become one. Enjoy the conversation as Phillip and guests unveil the secrets of professional hacking, a mysterious, intriguing, and often misunderstood occupation. Knowledge is power, now more than ever.
BugCrowd's award-winning platform combines actionable contextual intelligence with the skill and experience of the world's most elite hackers to help leading organizations identify and fix vulnerabilities, protect customers, and make the digitally connected world a safer place. Learn more at bugcrowd.com.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Hacker Factory podcast. I'm your host, Phillip Wylie, the Hacker Maker, and each episode I have a unique guest with a unique story on how they got started in the industry, and hopefully one of these stories will resonate with you. And today I'm very happy to have my friend Rey on. Rey's not only just someone from the community, we're friends, and we met during the RSA conference and in B-Sides San Francisco back in 2019, and we've became good friends and remained friends over the years. So it's an honor to have Rey joining us today.
Oh, thank you, Phil. And, I'll always cherish those bathroom selfies that we took, So.
That's pretty funny. You'll have to share with our listeners about the bathroom selfie.
Yeah. So we were at a pizza shop, and the pizza shop was lined in white tile, and it could easily be mistaken for a bathroom. And so Phil and I, this was the first time we met, and we had gone out to eat pizza, so we decided to take a selfie and post it up. And people were like, "Dude, you guys are taking a picture in the bathroom?" And it was kind of awkward. It was like awkward selfie type of thing. But yeah, it wasn't a bathroom. It was a pizza shop with bathroom tile lined all over the place.
Yeah, the white tile definitely, I could see why people would think that, but that was a pretty funny moment. So.
But the pizza was good, though.
Yeah, it was really good. It was very good pizza. We had a lot of good food there because we were BugCrowd ambassadors during that time. We got to try a lot of different Asian style cuisine while we were there too.
Yeah, so that was a good meal too. God, that was so good.
Yeah, there was some stuff there that I had never had before, and you and Chloe, the moments with you and Chloe where she kept trying to steal your pens and stuff.
Oh God, it was my favorite DEF CON pin, and she just wanted it, and I'm like, and she kept saying, "I'm going to steal it. I'm going to steal it." I'm like, yeah, I don't think so. And so finally, I just said, "All right, here, I'm going to give it to you because clearly you need this more than I do." And well, the ironic part is she takes it, slaps it on her bag, and then walks off. And it's like she's all happy and everything. Comes back the next day and she lost it. She lost her pin. I'm like, all right, well, you're out of luck. I give it to you. It is what it is. So yeah, it was interesting. We started calling her Cheloe that day.
Yeah, that was so hilarious. That was so funny.
She was not a happy camper with the Cheloe. When Jason Haddix actually jumped in and started calling her Cheloe, that was classic. That was beautiful.
Yeah, that was very funny. She did not seem to like that, but we all got a good laugh out of it. That was a fun trip.
You gotta take the good with the bad. You're gonna steal my pin, I'm gonna call you Cheloe. So
there's a price. Nothing in life's free. So yeah, we probably should back up a little bit here. So why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So it's interesting. I've been in the industry for 31 years, I guess. Is that what it is? Yeah. And I started in 1989, and I started off as a software developer. And I've been doing that for a long time. But about 4 years ago, I decided that I really wanted to dig into security, and I started exploring it. And I got hooked by the security bug and decided to make the change. And I can tell you that it wasn't like a super easy transformation, because when you're vested in a career for such a long period of time, and then you're trying to make a substantial change in the way that your new career is going to be headed to, you're starting from ground zero. Now, I was very fortunate. I was working at Microsoft, and there was a person there who saw potential in me, and she gave me the opportunity to get training, level up, have an opportunity to go to conferences and learn more about the security community and how I can help. So that was a definite advantage because, when you're in your later stage of careers, switching stuff becomes a little bit more challenging for you. And so she saw the potential and she gave me that opportunity. And I have to tell you, I ran with it. It's like all the training I could get, that if there was any training that she was willing to fund, I took it because you got to capitalize on it. And, Phil, you know how expensive training can be. Like if you're looking at a SAMS course, you're somewhere $6,000 to $10,000 depending on the course and depending on travel. And so those are things that you got to capitalize on to kind of push yourself forward a little bit. So yeah, that's kind of my thing. It's like I really wanted to be a security person, and I managed to do it. It wasn't an easy thing, but I did it.
Yeah, that's very cool. So while you mentioned all the training, maybe we should kind of go down that trail a bit and talk about some of the training, the type of training you took, and maybe the training you'd recommend for people starting out, because you did get to do a wide variety of training, which most people that even have generous training budgets don't even quite get to touch that level of training.
No, that's definitely true. It's I look back on some of the training I did, and I'm privileged to have been able to do some of this stuff because you look at some of the courses I take, and let's see. So I did Hacker House with Matthew Hickey, and Matthew's a prolific hacker. Great course. That was my foundational course. That's what actually allowed me to pop my first shell. And once I popped that first shell, that was it. I was hooked. I liked that. I did get certified by eLearn Security, so I took both their penetration testing student and professional courses, then eventually got certified with their eLearn Security professional penetration testing certification exam, which was nice because it was my first cert. It was kind of ran me through the process of learning how to do a pen test and how to do lateral movement, how to document things, and it was just a really nice end-to-end course. And then some other courses I took were like the SANS SEC 660, and that was my God, my brain melted on that one. And that was a hard course, and that dug really deeper into a lot of the issues relating to advanced buffer overflow techniques and advanced bypasses. I took the Spectre Ops course, the Red Team Operators course, which in hindsight, I probably shouldn't have taken when I did, but it seemed like I read the syllabus and it looked like a really good course to take. And when I took it, the one thing that stood out to me was it's definitely a very comprehensive course. But if you don't know Cobalt Strike or you haven't had any formal training in C2s, it's not something for you to take. You have to spend the time to either understand how command and control centers work and some of the facets of dealing with agents or beacons or whatever they want to call it. All the C2s have their own variations of nomenclature, but unless you know that, taking the Spectre Ops Red Team Operator course, they call it Adversary Tactics Red Team Operations. You're going to get lost, and that's what happened to me. I mean, towards the end I started to understand a little bit more. There were clearly people who had been doing this for a long time, and they wanted to shore it up, and you can see they were far and ahead, more advanced than I was. And so that RTO course, I learned a lot of theoretical stuff. The hands-on was a little bit more challenging, so definitely be aware of that. And then I did the PWK, the Offensive Security penetration testing with Cali, which is now called the Pen 200, and BC Security's Advanced Threat Emulation for Red Teams. And I will say that once I took the BC Security course, that's when a lot of the command and control center stuff started to click, and that course was really good. I enjoyed it more than the Spectre Ops course, mainly because it was like my first introduction to C2s, and they walked you through some of the things that make C2s valuable and why threat actors capitalize on that. And so I wish Spectre Ops would have done that, or at least offered more of that intro course. But in hindsight, if I would have done it, I would have probably taken the BC Security course first, and then maybe taken the Spectre Ops course afterwards, because I probably would have had a greater understanding of how Cobalt Strike works. It's not necessarily hands-on, because to get hands-on with Cobalt Strike, you have to work for somebody who actually has a license to Cobalt Strike. It's not, they don't give it to you, and they don't have trialware that you can really use. So but I did learn a lot over the course of time. It's been really fun.
So have you taken the 0-point security red team operator course?
That's the one I'm taking right now, and I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, that's Russ Mouse's course so far has been really good. I was one of the early adopters to his course, and when it first kicked off, it was a little bit hard. And you can see it's a typical thing with new courses. It had its warts. Nothing wrong with it. It's just that it's a new course. He was trying to get the infrastructure working. There were some challenges with the infrastructure and stability and shared labs, and it was just in its early stages. So I went back recently. I started it up again after I found out that he had shifted over to Snap Labs. So now there's personalized, non-shared instances of your lab. And on top of that, he worked out something with help systems where you can actually use Cobalt Strike and learn Cobalt Strike in the course itself. So that's great. So far I've been learning quite a bit. I'm enjoying it. I'm actually enjoying it now. When I first did it, it was a little bit more challenging to enjoy simply because there were stability issues. But now you can see that Russ has put a lot of effort into it, and he's got a lot of those bugs worked out, and the lab is in really smooth. It's well worth the investment. I think this course is going to be a big differentiator for anybody who wants to become a red team operator. I'm not saying that you're going to be a red team operator by taking his course, but you're certainly going to have a leg up in understanding how somebody who works in a red team operates, and also using some of the advanced technologies that these red team operators use day in and day out.
Yeah, actually went through the course last year, so it was still the shared labs, but I was pretty interested since they're using Snap Labs now, and that's really cool that they are, you have the option to use Cobalt Strike. I know they had the material for Cobalt Strike in there if you had a license or access to a license. So that's really cool. A good way for people to learn, because otherwise, for over $4,000 to go take SpecterOps training to get hands-on Cobalt Strike and then not really be able to practice with afterwards. So that's a great advancement.
Well, one of the things I like about it is that the lab time doesn't expire. So if you've taken the PWK or you've taken another online course, a lot of times they say, all right, from the moment you start, the clock starts ticking. And so with the PWK, for example, if you buy the 30-day course, at the moment you turn it on, you have 30 days and you need to finish it. And your lab time will expire in 30 days. The great thing about the RTO course from Rasta is that once you turn on the lab, you can turn it off. And so if you use half an hour of time, okay, well, you've consumed half an hour. And if you can't get to it for 2 weeks, no big deal. The same time still sits there waiting for you. So you're not burning time and having to make a bigger investment every single month to try to complete a course. And, we're all challenged. We all have workloads to do, and we have responsibilities, whether it's work, family, whatever it might be. And so it was really nice when Rasta told me that lab time doesn't expire. Man, that was fantastic. And so, I loaded up on some lab time, and I haven't, the last time I touched it was, I believe, last Thursday. And I just haven't had an opportunity to sit down and actually hack at it. But it's good to know that I still have whatever time I left off with last Thursday. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is nice because, on top of that, people have budgets too. So people like the pen testing with Cali can't, not everyone's going to be able to go back and keep paying for another 90 days. And
right.
Yeah, so that's really good.
Yeah. And, the courses like the PWK or Pen 200, it's a comprehensive course. It's really big. When I took it, it was, I think the PDF file was something like 800 pages. So to get through all that material is really, it's a lot of work. And anybody who's taking that course, unless you are a truly very experienced pen tester and you just want to get the cert because you just want to do it, 30 days doesn't seem like adequate amount of time for the labs. I think, you're looking at probably a minimum of 60 days, maybe 90. Or I would, like when I got mine, I got 90 days. And even with then, because of life and stuff, I used all 90 days. And I think it's important for folks to be realistic about it. And, if you're going to sign up, take the time to look at your schedule and say, how much can I actually invest in this? you read the write-ups, and it's interesting. People say, yeah, I was getting up at 5 in the morning or 4 in the morning, and I was studying for 2 hours, and then at night I was studying for another 5 hours. And I don't know. I'm not built that way. Phil, I'm not built to be up
Yeah.
ungodly hours. I need sleep. I like my 7 to 8 hours of sleep, and I do know that when I go to sleep late at night after being on the computer for quite a bit of time, the next morning I wake up not in a good space. I need to have some time to decompress and either watching some TV or just talking with my family. And I can't be in front of the computer like I used to. So it's important for everybody to take time to and be realistic with the amount of time they're investing. And it is an investment in time. You're going to have to spend time studying. Create a consistent schedule. And don't wait 2 weeks between sessions. Don't say, okay, I'm going to start the PWK today, and then 2 weeks later, I'm going to get back to it on lab, because you'll forget everything you've done. And it's important to stay consistent and stay on top of what you're learning.
Yeah, that's great advice. And then the time thing, staying up late, that's hard for me anymore, because whenever I went through, it was actually pen testing with Backtrack when I went through it. So I went through it because I got my first pen testing job in March of 2012, and I needed to learn how to hack. So that's part of the reason I took the course. So I started probably about April or so and worked on it up until June of 2013 when I finally passed the exam. And I could stay up later back then, because I wasn't into my 50s yet. But now if I'm up, for me, midnight is about as late. 1 o'clock, I'm okay. But if I'm up till like 3 a.m. or something like that, then I feel like total crap the next day.
I'm wrecked the next day if I do that. And I was doing that so I've taken the exam twice. And for context, just so everybody knows, the exam is really hard.
Yes.
No matter what you may read, and you'll read a lot of people talking about, oh, I passed the OSCP, and here's the secret sauce to it. No matter what you read, every experience is going to be a little different. And I've taken it twice, and I can tell you that the first time I took it was hard. I felt like I was pretty prepared, and I had gone through all the typical things you can imagine, the Hack the Box and the Try Hack Me and all these different services. And I thought I was pretty prepared. And it beat me. And I wasn't, I learned a lot, and which was fine. And I kind of expected it. I would have been really happy if I would have passed in the first attempt. But I also was realistic about that. But the other part was that I was spending an ungodly amount of time studying. Like, I was really, really cracking on the books. And I was wrecked. Mentally, I was getting to the point where I was very fatigued. I was really tired. So when I didn't pass it on the first attempt, I held off, and I said, I'm gonna shoot it for it later on. And I took a year off. I said, I'm not touching this. I'll continue to do my studying and my practicing, and it was less of a priority for me because I just didn't want to go through that again. And then I did it again, and I didn't pass it again. And I didn't really necessarily feel bad. The machines were definitely harder this time around. And I think that makes sense. And, looking at some of the history with offensive security and some of the challenges they've had, unfortunately, with folks who, of course, abuse the system, that's why now the course is proctored, and why, offensive security had to refresh their machines. There were challenges. There were some people who definitely decided to abuse the system. Their machines are going to be more challenging, and I would expect that as time goes on, you're going to continue to get more and more challenging boxes. And so when I read somebody says, "Oh, well, just do Hack the Box, easy and medium boxes," no. The boxes that I saw were very challenging. There were software that was very obscure, software that I had never seen myself, and I'd been around the block for a while. Remember, I was a software developer before switching into security. And a lot of the software I'd never seen in my life. And so I think if you're going to do services like Hack the Box or Try Hack Me, that's great. That's going to give you really good practice. But try to go for the obscure boxes. The boxes that TJ Null, for example, is offering now, he's updated his list, are really good. Try to focus on those. But also look at the hard boxes. And I hate to say it, but even some of what they call the insane boxes on these services, because they're also going to help you with more obscure software. So if I was going to do, like, if I said I'm going to take my third attempt, I know my path. I would go and take like TJ Null's list again. I would definitely do it because there are boxes there that are incredibly valuable for you to know and understand how to use, and they were representative of what I saw on the exam. But then I would also complement that with taking some of the more harder boxes on Hack the Box or Try Hack Me that I know would offer me those obscure services that most people probably won't see day to day.
Yeah, what do you think about? Have you tried out any of the Proving Ground boxes?
I tried some of the Proving Ground, and so Proving Ground is mixed. I have mixed emotions about that. I think some of the boxes are fantastic. I did that for quite a bit of time. I actually paid for the service because I wanted to get the more advanced boxes. So I think what's happening right now is that OPSEC is going through some growing pains with Proving Grounds, and the stability is kind of challenging. Sometimes it's hit or miss. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. The majority of times it was okay, but when you're there and you're trying to focus on learning for an exam, and a very important exam that's going to give you a certification that could be career changing, you need that service to run. And I had conversations with OPSEC about it. I'm very fortunate to know some people at OPSEC in pretty senior positions, and so I reached out to them and I was pretty direct about my concerns, and they worked to address it. That's the good thing about it. I will say that OPSEC is working to address it, but if you really think about what they're trying to build what Hack the Box is right now, at least for their students. And that's hard. Running an infrastructure that has to spin up VMs on a moment's notice and then keep everybody somewhat secure and keep the service running and pay for cloud usage and all that fun stuff, that's hard. So I know they're challenged with that, but ultimately I think they need to really make that service stable. And for me, I think they need to create private instances, especially for students. One of the things that I really dislike is going on a service where I have a shared box and seeing littered exploits, and then that this box has been pounded by somebody. So the challenge there is that if you run an exploit because that should be working and it doesn't work, then you have to figure out, well, is it my exploit that's not working? Is it the box that's in a stable state? Did I do something wrong? And that makes it harder for you as a professional to try to determine whether the path you're taking is right or wrong. So I don't know. The way I look at it is, this is one of the things I loved about eLearn Security. Their Hera Labs, and Hera is Hera, Hera Labs. They were private instances. You spun up Hera Labs, and you were attacking your own instance of a box, and you weren't sharing it. And so you knew that if something didn't work, that was on your end. And in worst case scenario, you restarted it, and if it didn't work again, then you definitely knew something was on your end. So you had that luxury. And I like that with some of the services out there. Hack the Box, for example, does do private instances, but you have to go VIP plus. Try Hack Me. I don't believe they do it, but they do it. I think if you get some of their more advanced labs, what do they call it? Like HoloLive and Throwback. I think those might be. I don't remember. But ultimately, having the private instances will definitely help you out in validating the work that you're doing and making sure that your exploits are either working right or you're making a mistake. So that's kind of the way I look at that. I think Proving Grounds has definite potential, and I wish they would take a lot more of their OSCP exam boxes and label them as I think they did this before. They actually had a section that was like old OSCP exam boxes. I would love for them to do that, because that way I can kind of compare myself to between now and what was way back when and say, all right, am I making progress or not? If I can compromise one of their old OSCP boxes, that gives me a different level of confidence when I'm going against some of the new stuff.
Yeah, that would be nice if they would give you the private environments like that, because I know one of the things I kind of experienced when going through the OSCP, there was times that someone had done something to that box and it was easier for you to exploit. And it wasn't always necessarily because things weren't working, but maybe things were working that shouldn't have been working or wouldn't have been if someone else hadn't already exploited it previously.
No, for sure. And The other thing that what I think people need to realize is that if you're going to kind of progress into the pen testing arena, is you really have to shore up on the web application pen testing. That's what I'm seeing more and more, and it ties a lot into the exams that I've taken. It ties into some of the box that I've seen on these services. We get very fixated with the network pen testing, which is interesting, and you're going to find plenty of opportunities there, but the other opportunities I see are for folks who become very savvy on the web application pen testing side, because as more companies move to the cloud, they're going to see more need for that. You're going to have the skills to say, how do I find that ingress point into this cloud infrastructure through a web application? It's going to be harder and harder for companies or for pen testers to find really good ingress points. And it's not to say they won't. Now, there's a lot of research being done right now on how to compromise cloud services. And I think like even recently there was research that was discovered on AWS. It was Azure, on a vulnerability on how to compromise your Azure. And those things will happen. But I think they're fewer and far between than they were in the old days when companies had 20, 30, 300 data servers in a data center, and they were managing them by themselves, and a misconfiguration sat there, and you were able to say, oh, guess what? Hi there. Now you got to find alternate routes.
Yeah, and I think it's very helpful too, because it's helped me a lot in my career, because there's a lot of times you're on a network pen test and maybe they've got the systems patched or they're really hard to get that foothold. But a lot of cases, some of your applications that are used to manage IT related applications or security applications are using like some kind of Java server, like Apache Tomcat or Red Hat JBoss. And if you're able to exploit that may be your foothold into the system. So I do definitely agree with the web part. And then just kind of hearing some people's experience with OSCP, saying that really helped them to understand the web pen testing piece when going through that exam.
Yeah, what reinforced this as well is just yesterday I was showing a colleague of mine how to do a Google Dork. She was looking for all PDF files on our company website, and but she was going manually, and I'm like, here, just use this Google Dork. And she thought I was joking with her when I said Google Dork. I go, no, this is a legitimate thing, and I just went to exploit DB and I said, all right, what's the syntax, and and then I showed it to her and another colleague of mine, and they were like shocked. They're like, oh my God, this is real? I go, oh yeah. And then it was funny, I pointed her to one that said Adobe Cold Fusion 8. And I said, see right here, this is probably somebody who's trying to find the Cold Fusion administrator page on Adobe Cold Fusion 8, because I recall there being a vulnerability there. And they were both sitting there like, are you kidding me? People do this? I'm like, well, yeah, that's just part of the way they find vulnerable services. And so the majority of them, though, what was interesting is the majority of the Google Dorks were either looking for doc files or PDF files, but there was the other half was looking for vulnerable web services. And so that's just a testament to how important understanding how to get ingress in via an application is. It's like, if you can find those low-hanging fruits that get you in there and you can drop a web shell as a pen tester, that's gold. Now it's not gold for your client, obviously. They're not, but hopefully they'll be happy that you found it and not a bad actor, because the last thing that your client wants is that. Microsoft did an article, I think it was last year, that dug into the pervasiveness of web shells. And obviously, the SharePoint, the SharePoint server issue was big web shell stuff that was going on there. There was a vulnerability in it. But I think that came out before the SharePoint vulnerability that led to all those web shells. They were just talking about the pervasiveness of web shells. And if you've ever used a web shell, yeah, those things are pretty powerful nowadays. There's some creativity in there. It's cool to be able to use it and know how to drop it in there and how to best leverage it. But you have to know how web apps work, and you have to know how to compromise them, and you have to know how to leverage them. And nowadays, when you start looking at web apps, they're no longer these monolithic apps. I mean, you're going to still have a lot of those sitting out there someplace, but new modern apps are going to be everything from progressive web apps that are single page applications to apps using microservices that are split apart and containerized to APIs that you need to learn how to scan and compromise in some fashion. And all these things are new, and I don't know that I call them exciting, but yeah, I'll definitely say they're new. And it's going to force pen testers to kind of reevaluate a little bit how they're going to get into their customers.
Yeah, when you mentioned Google Dorks a while ago, I was kind of thinking too. Did you show them how to view source?
No. You got to remember, I'm not in Missouri, okay? So I don't need to worry about that.
That was so hilarious. Boy, there was a lot of good laughs over that.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that it doesn't even take a security professional to tell somebody view source is not hacking. I mean, I was doing view source back in in the Netscape days. Yeah, and that's to show you how long I've been on the net. I'm pretty sure Netscape had view source back then, and so to say that somebody doing view source and looking at data and saying, oh, here's some social security numbers, and guess what? And I don't know all the specifics of it. I'd like to see all the specifics. I'd really like to see what their head of IT or head of development, is claiming was this. What was it? What do they call it? This reversing or unencoding or
they're referred to it as decoding or something.
Decoding.
The hackers decoded.
What did they decode? It was base 64. It may have been base 64. Well, yeah, if it's base 64 and somebody says, let me decode base 64, is that hacking? No, I don't. Not that I know of. If it's publicly available data, it's there. This is not somebody going into your system and saying, let me poke around into your database. This is like right there. But anyways, yeah, such is life when you have civic leaders that clearly don't understand technology.
Yeah, they think if Beto O'Rourke can do it, they can too, I guess. So.
Yeah. It is what it is,
Yeah, pretty interesting, but yeah.
Yeah, I think there's opportunities for the new generation to hopefully educate these leaders. And there's always going to be, I call them political agendas. There's always going to be these opportunities for even people who are versed in technology to conflate what the issue is and turn it into something that it's not. And that's not to say that that this won't happen again. Even with somebody who understands technology, I think in this case, perhaps the governor just didn't like the newspaper, and that's, from what I've read, it seems like they've had history before. So maybe this is an opportunity for him to kind of attack them for doing something like that. God knows, it's everybody has their thing, but hopefully in the future, the new generation will be a little bit smarter and not look kind of silly saying, yeah, view source is hacking. God, wait, let me go on Restream and view source here and. Hold on a second. Oh, Phil, I just hacked Restream because I did a view source. Look at that. Oh my God. They're using keyframes. They're using a keyframed loader spin. Oh, that's it.
Oh no. You're revealing my secrets.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I can see your door opening by my secret code right now. Anyways.
So, if you for someone that's starting out new, what would you recommend for them if they were wanting to become a pen tester?
Yeah, so the first thing that I would recommend is they understand what they want to be in security. Here's the thing: I think a lot of people look at offensive security as this shiny new, lack of a better term, this sexy thing. This like, oh, this is where all the cool kids are. But security is so vast. There's so many moving parts in security and so many areas to explore. And I would say the first thing you want to do is kind of get a map of what the security landscape actually looks like. Because remember, there's threat intelligence. So you have threat analysts, you have incident responders, you have reverse engineering experts, you have malware analysts, you have, of course, penetration testers, you have web app penetration testers, you application security engineers, DevSecOps, red teams, purple teams, green teams, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's so many different areas of security. If offensive security is something that really gets you excited and you do want to go into pen testing, then I think the first thing you want to do is kind of I would take a course. I mean, the Cyber Mentors course is fantastic. I recently took it. And I wanted to get a refresher on some of the things that I had learned when I first took the eLearn Security course. And I took the eLearn Security course, when did I take it? I'm going to say back in 2018, maybe. So I wanted to take a refresher, and the Cyber Mentors course was fantastic. It was very thorough. And I learned some new stuff too, which was kind of cool, like man in the middle with IPv6, and that was neat. So, and for the price point, you can't beat it. I mean, seriously, it's like he's giving that course away pretty much. And so thank you, Heath, for doing that. I appreciate you. So that's why I'm more than happy to give him kudos on that. And I think, go ahead.
I do really admire people that try to keep training, affordable for all. So it's because a lot of this training is not cheap.
No, it's not. And so I would say start with Heath's course and see how you feel about it. The Hacker House course is also a very good course, a little bit more expensive, but if you're budget conscious, Heath's course is amazing. The breadth of coverage of material it floors me. Everything from the basics and foundational networking stuff to all the way to Active Directory enumeration and exploitation. And he even walks you through building an Active Directory lab, which is crazy. So all that time, all that stuff takes time and effort. And so how much, I don't even remember how much it was, but I know that it was, I don't know, I think it was under $50 for the course. And that's a hell of a price point for that breadth of material. And then once you've taken Heath's course, of course he offers a certification exam, and you can take that. Then you can start exploring other things too. I mean, you could take the Pen 200 from Offensive Security, and then eventually look to take the OSCP. And so the OSCP is still viewed as kind of like the gold standard of offensive security certifications. It is a very hard exam. You just have to be very well prepared for it. And then from there, there's so many other courses to take. It just depends on which route you want. One of the things I would recommend is doing bug bounties. So if you have the time and you're able to commit to it, spend time doing bug bounties, but go into it with the mindset of that you're not going to find stuff. You're not going to find stuff on a regular basis. Why? Because you have to build those skills. And none of these courses are going to teach you all the skills needed to find these obscure bugs in the sites that are part of the bug bounty programs. When you see somebody who says, when you read about somebody who's earned $1 million doing bug bounties, just know that those people have invested a tremendous amount of time in learning small skills that you will not have right now. And they've learned how to automate a lot of their scannings to find the low-hanging fruit and get it out of the way, so they can focus on more interesting areas and perhaps get bigger bounties. But it's taken time. It wasn't like an overnight thing for them. The $1 million earners did not win that in a month of bug bounty. It took them years to get to that point, to develop the skills and learn the nuances of apps so they can get to the point of earning that money. But here's the thing, if you dedicate the time to it, you will learn. And the other thing is capitalize on some of the resources out there like TryHackMe and Hack the Box and try to learn from them. Now, go in there knowing that the boxes, some of them are going to be purposely vulnerable, and they're going to be purposely obtuse in terms of what type of vulnerability you're going to find. Some of the things you're going to see, you're going to be like, yeah, this is not real world. There's just not. Some of them will. But these companies, they're in the business of keeping people engaged in really cool puzzles. And that's what they are. These boxes are really cool puzzles. And so you just want to go in there knowing that you're going to be playing really cool puzzles. And then if they have specific tracks that focus on, let's say, offensive security, then you're going to probably find some more realistic examples of boxes you can compromise. And then, you know what? There's something to be said for freelancing. Everybody talks about, I need to get my pen tester job and I need to work full time. Yeah, you're right. I think if you want to go down that route, eventually you're going to need to do that. But make sure you network with folks in the industry, and demonstrate that you can actually do pen testing, even at the beginner level. My first pen test was a freelance opportunity that was given to me by David Evenden, and he saw an opportunity for me to do it, and he mentored me through the process. And I asked a lot of questions, but he gave me my first shot at doing an actual pen test, and I think that was an important step for me. an actual pen test is very different from any course you'll take. You have to there's so many variables that you have to consider. And ultimately, the biggest variable is ensuring the business continuity for the customer. That's the biggest thing that you always have to protect. And so it's different than if you do a hack the box, because if you blow up a box on hack the box, all right, well, do a reset, Customers don't typically have a reset, and you don't want an angry customer because you decided to launch some random exploit you found on GitHub, and guess what? It blew up their boxes, or worse, compromised their server. So you have to be very careful. But spend the time to understand these things and understand what your limitations are, and then build networks with people who are in the industry, and then develop that trust so that they bring you into the fold, and we'll give you that opportunity for your first shot. And then once you get the first shot, then you're golden.
Great advice. And back to that, you talk about the freelancing, because once you know how to do a pen test and you start getting interviews for pen tests, then you're going to have a lot better likelihood of getting a full-time job.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And you've been around the block quite a bit on pen testing, Phil, and so you know how hard it can be for anybody to try to find a pen testing job. And I know that, like, for me, I believe in tenacity. I just go out there and try to do things, but I also know that there's a lot of challenges for folks nowadays. I call them gatekeepers, and we do have a lot of gatekeepers in this industry, which they want people with. They want them to have the OSCP, and they want them to have the GPen, and they want them to have this cert and that cert, and so in order for you to have the job, you have to have 5 certs and 25 years of experience, and and you're like, what? And it doesn't work that way. So building the networks will definitely help you. That's going to help you with your visibility and talking to people. If you can go to conferences, network. Don't just sit there and say, I'm going to take in an event and that's it. I'm going to sit and watch talks. It's good to watch talks, but it was interesting. Phil and I were just talking about this right before we started recording this. And one of the things we both love to do is go to events and have conversations with people, because that's how you build your network. And in many cases, these are people that you're only going to see on a limited basis, and you want to keep in contact with them, because you can always go back and look at videos. Videos most of the time are recorded for almost every event that I've ever been to. But that opportunity to sit down with somebody, and granted, we're in COVID time, so that's a little bit more challenging. But once it opens up, the opportunity to sit down with somebody and have a conversation and share some food or share a drink or something like that, that's invaluable, because that's how you build a relationship. A person realizes you're a human being and not somebody that's on, called dead sloth on a Twitter handle or something like that. And they realize, oh, this is actually a human being. And that's how you build that relationship. You build that affinity towards each other. So definitely take the time to build your network and go out to user groups if you can.
Yeah, that's great advice. I mean, anymore when I want a job, I just network. I reach out to my network, and people refer you. That's a good way to get past the HR firewall, because I've had jobs before where the bank I work for now, I just got the job and I had applied to another bank, had OSCP, plenty of experience, and didn't even get called for an interview because I just went through the traditional upload my resume and apply. But then they contact me a year later. And so, yeah. And this is, I had, quite a bit of experience. I had the SANS GWAPT cert. I had the OSCP, and had like 5 years worth of consulting experience, and didn't even get called at that time until like a year later. And the job that I got instead of it was because I met someone at a Dallas OWASP chapter meeting that worked for the company where I'm at now. So yeah, we've got openings if anyone's interested. And I passed along my resume and ended up getting a job through there. So
yeah, and you are a prolific networker. I can say that, Phil. You are definitely a prolific networker. So yeah, I think the networking is going to be one of the critical skills. And I know it's hard. I can't say that it's easy for everybody just to go ahead and get out, put themselves out there. I'm the opposite. I like to say I shake hands and kiss babies. That's what I like to do at the events, and I like to go out there and network and meet people. But it's not for everybody. Not everybody's going to be able to just go up to a random stranger and introduce themselves and have a conversation. Listen, when I was in high school, I couldn't go up to anybody, and I had a hard enough time going up to a girl and asking her to dance at like the school dance, let alone introduce myself to anybody. It took a lot of effort, and not everybody gets to that point where they're going to be able to have that openness and that communication. Some people, it's not natural to them, and they shouldn't be forced to it. But if you can work to build the network, even in gradual ways, through like user group meetups are great, because there you're not in this massive event where it could be intimidating, could be overwhelming. User groups are a little bit more casual, and it gives you more of an opportunity to have authentic conversations. And then the other thing I would say is, if anybody's out here who is that type of extrovert person, put yourself out there. Go out there, and if you see somebody who's sitting there by themselves and they're not talking to anybody, go have a conversation with them. You never know who that person might end up becoming. That person could become a very influential person in your life, and it's important to build those bridges. And so, put yourself out there. Give somebody else a break. And you might be surprised. I've met some great people like that. People who you could see were like, they were just sitting there. You could see that they were uncomfortable being in that environment. And then when I came up and started having a conversation, you could see that they felt at ease, and now they felt like, oh, cool, okay, I can talk to somebody about the things that I do, and it's important. And that's one of the best parts of these events. Definitely, I would recommend that to anybody.
Yeah, and good for sharing that too as well, that you used to be shy. And the same thing with me. I just used to be really shy, and I went somewhere, I just kind of stood off in the corner by myself. But, once you kind of get going to these different user groups, conferences, and different meetings like that, and you get talking to people, you just get to where you really enjoy it. So people out there that are kind of shy, there is hope, because you got two people here that, we go out and we network like crazy and talk to people. So, there's hope there. And especially when you're among your own kind of people, because one of the things you have to stop and think about, go back to high school, maybe you didn't fit in with the popular crowd, but it's like, we go geek out with a bunch of other people that are into security or hacking or coding or something. When you're among your people, it's a little more comfortable, and people tend to try to help make you more comfortable that way. It's just totally different, because a lot of other groups, I just don't do that with.
Yeah, your tribe of hackers, huh? Your tribe of hackers. There you go. Marcus, that was such a great idea. He did. I love those books. It was such a great idea.
Such a great person too. Yeah,
he's a wonderful person.
Yeah, I've missed getting to see him. Had got to see him since before the pandemic. I guess 2019 was the last time.
Yeah, we'll get to see him soon enough.
Yeah,
we'll get to see him soon enough.
Yeah, we'll get to see him.
And then I'm looking forward to seeing you, so that way I can go powerlifting with you. So,
Yeah, I look forward to seeing you as well. I've missed seeing people. That's even like our friend Don Donzel. I haven't got to see him since 2019. So a lot of people I hadn't seen in a while.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting out a little bit and having those meetups and catching up with friends and just a general fun. I will say, while events can be challenging and they're tiring, especially if you're speaking, like I get so nervous right before a talk, no matter what. And I've given so many talks, but even to this day, right before a talk, I get nervous. I have self-doubt. I'm like, oh, am I going to give a good talk? Are these people going to hate it? And then they're going to put it on Twitter, and then I'm going to look like a total fool, and my imposter syndrome kicks in 100%. And then I deliver it, and then once it's off my chest, then I'm like, okay. And then I can be normal, and I can just go have fun and talk to people, and I miss those days.
Yeah, same here.
Yep.
Well, thanks for joining me. It's been great having you as a guest, and great to catch up. And
yeah, same here. Same here. It's been a day. I did my Twitch stream today, and I had technical issues, so I was like, oh God, please don't let this be another one. It's like, I'm glad this went really smoothly. The internet's working nicely, and things are just working great. So I'm happy about that, and I'm glad we had a good session. I'm glad nothing went south on this one. So that's awesome.
That's good. I got my stream tonight at 7 p.m.
Oh, nice, awesome. Okay, cool. I might have to jump on that one. Let me see how I feel. I'm mentally exhausted right now from everything. So I may, and 6 o'clock. Yeah, 6 o'clock my time. My son, I think, wants to practice some baseball, so I may take him outside and throw some batting practice. Get my mind off the computers a little bit.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
All right.
Well, thanks again. Thanks everyone for joining, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Have a good one, bud.
BugCrowd's award-winning platform combines actionable contextual intelligence with the skill and experience of the world's most elite hackers to help leading organizations identify and fix vulnerabilities, protect customers, and make the digitally connected world a safer place. Learn more at bugcrowd.com.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Hacker Factory podcast with Phillip Wylie. If you learned something new and this podcast made you think, then share itspmagazine.com with your friends, family, and colleagues. If you represent a company and wish to associate your brand with our conversations, sponsor one or more of our podcast channels. We hope you will come back for more stories and follow us on our journey. You can always find us at the intersection of technology, cybersecurity, and society.